In the annals of American crime, Alcatraz Federal Penitentiary, aka The Rock, is the quintessential maximum security prison. Fortified on an island in the cold, turbulent waters of San Francisco Bay, it's become the de facto destination for America's most dangerous compensators. However, if you fill a prison fortress with the most dangerous people in the country, the prison will, of course, become a dangerous place. And even with Alcatraz's notoriously tight security, the men sometimes resorted to sensational violence. We will uncover some of the most horrific murders that occurred at the hands of Alcatraz mechanics. Royal Officer C. Klein, 1938. Although no refugees have been verified from Alcatraz, many improvements have been made. And when they do, the ensuing battles are often deadly. On May 22, 1938, Correctional Officer Royal Klein was supervising the prison woodshop when he made the fatal mistake of diverting his attention from taking a few minutes to make an inventory of supplies. According to David Ward's book Gangsters of Alcatraz, credits Thomas Limerick, James Lucas and Rufus Whitey, Franklin attempted to escape the workshop by calling through a window while Klein was in a nearby office. When the officer returned among the refugees, Franklin hit him with a hammer. Klein never regained consciousness. Stream 60 days on the A&E app. The men who succeeded climbed to the roof, where they confronted prison warden Harold Stites. They threw scrap metal they collected from the workshop at the warden while he returned fire. 2 men were shot, Limerick was killed, and the refugees were routed. The surviving prisoners were sentenced to life in prison for Klein's murder. Rufus McCain, born 1940. Like Klein's murder, Rufus McCain's murder stemmed from an attempt to escape from Alcatraz. However, while Klein was a keeper, McCain was a winner. He attempted to escape from Alcatraz with 2 other contractors on January 13, 1939. But like all escape attempts from Alcatraz, the prospect failed and one of his co-conspirators, Arthur Barker, was shot and killed by guards during the attempt. Less than a year later, another surviving escapee, Henri Young, stabbed McCain to death with a sharp spoon. He never explained his motives. In 1995, McCain's murder, and Young's subsequent trial, became the basis for Murder in the First, a film starring Christian Slater. According to author David Ward, Young's defense team attempted to claim that conditions at Alcatraz were so inhumane that they drove him to commit murder. They put the agency on trial, Ward said. Both put the agency on trial. In Young's case, that defense failed. He was convicted of murder. Maurice Herring, 1942. Other Alcatraz killers found more sympathetic juries. One notable case involved the murder of Maurice Herring, who had been fighting in the bathroom with inmate Cecil Snow. According to witnesses, Herring, the stronger of the two, had knocked Snow to the floor and was riding on top of him and hitting him on the head when Snow, brandishing a knife, stabbed his attacker in the chest and thigh, the latter injury resulting in a severed artery. Bleeding profusely, Herring staggered and collapsed due to excessive blood loss. Within half an hour, he was pronounced dead at the prison hospital. In federal court, inmates testified on Snow's behalf, claiming that Herring was an angry attacker and had made numerous threats. Snow was acquitted of murder, but nonetheless sentenced by prison staff to disciplinary isolation for nearly 3 years. The jury believed it, Ward said of the verdict. Regarding disciplinary segregation, also known as the jury believed it, Ward said that prison officials receive a lot of criticism from people who consider the conditions inhumane. It was a cell with nothing in it, and the door was barred, Ward said. It was a cell with nothing in it, and the door was barred. John Kabat-Zinn. Claude Branch, 1945. Like Herring and McCain, Claude Branch was a prisoner who was murdered by a fellow inmate, Ralph Green, who delivered the fatal blow with a metal prop in the prison barbershop. Unlike the previously mentioned victims, Branch initially looked like he would survive, only succumbing to his injuries after 2 days. However, during his moments of sobriety, he was so reluctant to complain to the government, even his own killer, he denied to Alcatraz officials that a fight had occurred. Ward saw Branch's refusal as emblematic of the convict code of conduct that was Alcatraz's norm. Ward explains the principles of the code. You must not do anything that interferes with the play or activities of other inmates. You should not do anything to help the staff. You should be quiet and alone. And you should never give out information about other inmates. After Branch's murder, inmates defended his killer by claiming that Branch was a homosexual and regularly attempted to rape fellow inmates such as Green. As in Herring's case, the jury found Green not guilty, after which prison staff sent him to solitary confinement for 4.5 years. Officers William Miller and Harold Stites, May 1946. It was the bloodiest confrontation between officers and prisoners in Alcatraz history. The Battle of Alcatraz, a 3-day incident in which Alcatraz inmates held prison guards hostage in prison cells and exchanged long shots with rescue teams. The takeover attempt was masterminded by bank robber Bernard Coy, who, working with other inmates, overpowered a guard and then quickly gained access to the prison's stockpile of weapons and ammunition, allowing them to effectively take over the prison. The plan, as originally designed, required using a key to get out of the cell block and onto the docks, where the prisoners would board a boat to San Francisco, and be free. Officer Miller, who was being held hostage, hid the key from the prisoners in the holding cell toilet. Miller and several other prison guards were shot and tortured by inmates while chasing the key. Miller died from his injuries, but not before he managed to identify the killer as inmate Joseph Kretzer. Officer Harold Stites, who helped neutralize the escape attempt that claimed the life of Officer Royal Klein, was shot to death in a shootout between guards and inmates. Coy also died, along with 2 other inmates. The 3 surviving conspirators were tried and convicted of the murders, after which they tried to escape again. Thank you for watching. Help the channel grow by liking, commenting, subscribing.